Oh, hi.
How you do? What's up, everyone? How you do? How's it going? What's up, BB Guy? What's up, Seth? What's up, Rabdiba? What's up to all lurkers out there? How you do?
How's it going? Why didn't that work?
Oh, the bot's not even connected. Well... Oh, now it is, and now it's muted. Because I saw the command in the chat, and I'm just like, ah, yes, thank God I already... And I look over and I see the thing's not muted yet, and it's like, oh... Wait. Whoops! Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. I gotta actually stretch this out a little bit because I have some long notes this time. I also put a Y in Twitch for some reason and not a T. Oh, because those buttons are next to each other. That's how the typo happened. That makes sense. All right, shall we get this show on the road? Three, two, one. Come up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Linux might get themselves exempt from California's age verifying OS law. The Steam Deck gets an unfortunate, massive price hike. AI supporters are now blaming Chinese propaganda for the backlash against big data centers. And TwitchCon EU happened. And so we have a whole lot of new features to talk about for Twitch. All that more coming today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or it's 2 a.m. Go to bed already. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. Quite a lot to talk about today. TwitchCon happened, a lot of AI news kind of coming down the pike. And on top of that, we gotta get like all the backlog stuff done today. Because Computex is now. Or tomorrow, depending on whether you're watching this live or as a podcast. You know. One of the two. So quite a lot to go over. First up, though, is that here's something that you should know about, but not worry about. You know, we love to do that sort of stuff around here. There is a new vulnerability known as Frost that allows web browsers to go ahead and scan your SSD activity and read what is on said SSD activity. Now, this sounds terrifying. A browser-based attack that can go ahead and start scanning the contents of your entire primary disk. Yikes. Now, this isn't actually that big a deal when push comes to shove. Because first off, it means you have to first go and visit sketchy websites. Second, it is now a known vulnerability, so one of the first things that's going to happen is security updates are going to be flying out everywhere to go ahead and patch this thing. In fact, actually, you know what the most damage this vulnerability is going to cause? This is the easiest prediction in the world. You want to know what truly is going to be the most damage this vulnerability causes? Are you ready for this? The most damage this vulnerability is going to cause is the fact that Windows is going to have to push out an update, and that update is probably going to brick something else about the most popular operating system. The worst part is, you know, I'm right. That's the worst part about this. The vulnerability is scary, don't get me wrong. And if left unchecked, oh yeah, there's going to be plenty of new ways that this sort of vulnerability is going to be incorporated into, say, ads, so it gets into more trusted websites and just starts skimming data left and right. You know that's going to be the case. In fact, there's already patches out there to go ahead and patch this sort of stuff. But the thing is now, is that because Microsoft has gone all in on the wonderful powers of AI, what's most likely going to happen is that the AI is going to go ahead and screw everything up and push out an update that is going to brick something like the start button or the entire SSD, which honestly would not be the first time that Microsoft has put out an update that completely bricked an entire SSD. You remember the first time they did? I remember. And this is probably the most terrifying thing about updates right now. Because I don't blame Microsoft, Apple, Google, or whomever for there being a vulnerability. Someone is always going to find a new way to go ahead and brick something, to go ahead and wreck something. What's important is the fact that you go ahead and update and patch out these vulnerabilities when they are found. Not everyone can account for everything. In fact, realistically, nobody can account for everything. So yeah, I want to go ahead and push that out there before any Mac user starts going, this would never happen on Apple because Apple is so secure and free of everything. Yeah. By the way, because of the way this sucker works, Apple users, you're vulnerable too. So yeah, before you go ahead and start going, oh, you idiots over there, go ahead and start getting your thumb up your butt. You know, you should know you're vulnerable too. Yeah, so make sure you are up to date, regardless of it. And also stop sounding like a little weenie. We're kind of sick of the whole, I mean, at least I'm sick of the whole Apple versus Windows sort of thing. That debate ended long ago. It just comes down to, do you need to use Mac OS or do you prefer to use Windows? Or can you go ahead and are you tech savvy enough to use Linux? That's basically what the whole argument of which OS to use boils down to. No, I don't include Chrome OS in there. Chrome OS is dead. And we still don't have a name for the new Chromebook replacement. We just know it's called a Google Book, but nobody knows what the operating system is called. And honestly, that still annoys me a little bit. That the entire new replacement for flippin' Chrome OS is still completely unknown. All we have is just tidbits and assumptions. Yeah. I'm going to call it aluminum foil OS until they stop me. Aluminium is what some person in chat said, and you know what? They're probably right. Anyway, speaking of things you'd be concerned about on the internet, GTA 6 is coming soon before it gets delayed again. Allegedly, it is going to be launching November 19th until it's delayed again. This year until it's next year. Which also means that there is a plethora of scammers and hackers trying to go ahead and get people to go click sussy links to go and pre-order their video game that I don't believe is actually available for pre-order just yet. I would hope if you're tech savvy enough to actually seek out a small tech podcast like this one, that you'd also be tech savvy enough not to click suspicious links trying to get you to pre-order games that are not available for pre-order yet. Or at least pre-order said game from a trusted website. Or actually, my personal preference, because it is a digital game and therefore not in, short supply at all, just don't pre-order. Crazy concept. You can just get it on launch because it's most likely digital. Now, if you want a physical copy, then yeah, you might want to pre-order it. There's going to be limited supplies of those. That's just, probably a thing you've already done or are going to do if they're not available. I actually don't know if Grand Theft Auto 6 is available for pre-order yet. But just please use a little bit of common sense. I love the fact that someone as a joke in our chat said that you should pre-order GTA 6 at fictionalpreordersite.edu.gov. You also forgot .ru.virus.ca. I mean, if we're gonna make a fictional sketchy website link, let's get all the good ones in there. Oh yeah, and .xxx, because why not? Why not? Since we're not putting much effort into this. Meanwhile, HP has an issue. Now try this, all right? For those of you who don't know, HP actually does make good laptops. Sometimes. Usually these high-end HP laptops are usually under the name of, well, it used to be NV, but not anymore, that's for sure. Does HP actually make a good consumer laptop anymore? I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure it's all plastic junk. But if you're shopping used, the HP brands you usually look for are EliteBook or ZBook. EliteBook is their premium business line, and the ZBook is their, believe it or not, even though it sounds like the most Mickey Mouse brand in existence or something, is actually their professional engineer line. I'm not kidding. You'd think with a name like the ZBook, that's actually something more targeted at the consumer line. Nope. Engineers. And in fact, it's the ZBooks that are usually the ones that are, well, the highest end. Now, ZBooks are supposed to be all built around, being ultra high-end, ultra performance, and most importantly, ultra reliable. Which is why it's shocking that there is a BIOS update for the ZBook Ultra G1A the thin and light version of their ZBook that can cause the machine to completely freeze during the boot process. And as someone in the chat just discovered, these laptops can go for a lot of money because, of course, they're mobile workstations. They're built, like I said, they're built to be ultra high end, ultra performance, and have full uptime. So to see HP screw up a BIOS update for their cream of the crop, the best of the best in laptops, is a massive yikes. By the by, if you're curious on the other ones, HP's is the ZBook, Dell is the Precision line, Lenovo is the ThinkPad P series, and Apple is supposed to be the MacBook Pro, but honestly, as far as ultra high end goes, the MacBook Pro does not have the same level of uptime and reliability as the other mobile workstations out there, but that is going to be the Apple equivalent. No, Acer does not make a mobile workstation. And as far as I'm aware, none of the other like smaller brands like Falcon Northwest or whatnot make a laptop that one would consider truly a mobile workstation. Why am I telling you this? Because I guarantee you most people are not going to go ahead and spend, the 4 to 20 grand for one of these. It's because they go on the used market quite a bit. And one of those suckers, off a 2 to 3 to 4 year lease for, a couple hundred, it's actually a pretty good buy. I'm just saying, we all got to go ahead and know the tricks to get by in this day and age, It's just good to know those things. Tip for you. So, yeah, that's kind of where HP's at right now. They're looking at the fact they just went ahead and bricked that just went ahead and messed up their BIOS, and yep, that's it. The end. So if you're one of these that have a HP Ultrabook G1A, which how old is that laptop actually? ZBook Ultra G1A. I have to assume that is a current laptop. It is a current laptop, so most of you do not have this. Unless your boss went ahead and got one of these for you. Oh, actually, I hate this laptop already. A mobile workstation with an integrated GPU? Ugh. Yeah, if you have this laptop, just don't update the BIOS. Not for a while anyway. I'm a little disappointed. Yeah, it's just a it's just a thin and light laptop with the Z branding on it, with the same kind of high-end build quality, running an AMD Ryzen AI Max Pro. So, there's that. Anyway, let's get that out of the way. Let's actually go ahead and move on here. More rumors are coming out about the Apple foldable iPhone. And they're running into some issues involving mass production. Mostly because, well, Apple's going to have a certain standard involving a folding phone, and they're having a very hard time trying to go ahead and meet said standard, which honestly is not very surprising at all. Especially since folding phones, unfortunately, have a bit of a durability problem. They always have. And it's not exactly one that has been solved. It has been one that's been mitigated. But it still boils down to the fact the interior screen is very fragile, and you need to go ahead and have a tight seal around said screen to make sure nothing gets under the said screen and destroys said screen. So yeah, I'm not surprised in the least that Apple is having problems with trying to produce things. So for those of you hoping for an iFold, you're going to be waiting a bit longer because Apple is, of course, understandably running into some problems. California is also running into some problems, such as the fact that Linux wanted to go ahead and stress that age verification for the operating system is terrible for the way they operate. Which they are correct. It is terrible for the way they operate. It's terrible for any operating system to go ahead and verify the age of their users by collecting personal data. It is beyond stupid. But at least now California is putting a carve out for Linux uses. So, hey, there's a win. They're still going to push the law forward. So if you go ahead and buy a Windows or Mac PC, you're still going to be required to age verify for some reason. And the company's going to be required to track that. Why, I don't know. And also the way they're phrasing this is that it has to be an operating system that you install yourself. So devices like the Steam Deck, we're going to get to them later on, could still be affected by this, which is, again, pretty stupid. Like, we're talking about collecting enough personal data for some, like, the amount of data they're trying to collect for this would be understandable if it was a controlled product. It would be one thing if you're trying to age verify or gather any sort of personal information for selling, like, say, a firearm or certain kinds of, you know, medicine or things like that. That'd be one thing. You're talking about a computer. Do I need to go ahead and go to the like, what happens then after we go through this whole thing? I go and sell said computer. Like, how far is this idiocy gonna go? Are people gonna have to go down to, like, the DMV like they're transferring a car for a laptop or a Steam Deck or anything like that? Like, this is just kind of silly. We'll have to see how this goes, but honestly, this entire thing about age verification, to me, still reeks of being incredibly stupid. But, you know, that's just my opinion. By the way, the NVIDIA control panel, yeah, the thing you barely used, except way back in the day, to hit performance and really hasn't done anything for a while, it's now dead. The latest NVIDIA update has gotten rid of the control panel. Everything is now controlled through the NVIDIA app, which fortunately no longer requires a username or password or any sort of registration, which, you know, it's just kind of an end of an era sort of thing. I'm not for or against it. It's gone. Okay. It's the least controversial thing that NVIDIA has done in a while. Which, you know, isn't saying a whole lot, you know, all things considered. Oh, but that's just the way they work, isn't it? Speaking of things that are controversial for NVIDIA, remember how I said that Computex is coming soon? Well, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and ARM, all these companies on the artist formerly known as Twitter have been talking about there is a new era of PC. And they've been spamming this around along with a set of coordinates that leads to exactly where you think it leads. It leads to the Computex floor. Yeah, the coordinates just point directly to the convention of Computex. But what could it be? Oh, we just don't know. A new era of PCs. Oh, this is going to be the worst thing that's ever been announced. Oh, God. NVIDIA and Microsoft are both excited for this. Oh, my God. It's going to be the worst news. It's going to be the most AI-filled nonsense. You know what it's going to be? I can already tell you what it's going to be. Anyone who has followed NVIDIA for a while and is actually in the know of things NVIDIA is doing besides trying to go ahead and sell shovels to people digging for AI. It's their N1X chip. This has been heavily rumored and leaked for a while. The ARM-powered CPU that NVIDIA has been working on with all kinds of numbers supporting out, saying that it's gonna be a pretty decently powerful ARM capable chip that is going to be bigger than a normal smartphone CPU, but small in comparison to a laptop one. That's what it's going to be. But here's the thing, right? You're thinking, oh, we're going to finally see what this thing can do. People are done talking about just this is going to be this is going to be a massive game changer. Oh my God, they're going to show this CPU doing all kinds of things. And yeah, they're going to show all these graphs saying the N1X chip just absolutely sweeps the floor with AMD and Intel. It's going to leave x86 in the dust. I guarantee you they're going to show graphs like that. NVIDIA also showed graphs showing that the RTX 5080 chip was going to be 3 times faster than the RTX 4080 chip. 400% faster. Guess how much faster it actually is? About 5 to 10%, depending on title. That's it. The biggest thing that the 5000 generation had over the 4000 generation is just that it has new AI features. That's it. And it has fake frames, which if you prefer quality in your games, you turn off. And if you want accuracy in your games, you turn that off too. We're going to see that same sort of, we're going to see that exact same sort of overhyping. We're going to see NVIDIA go ahead and say this thing is going to go ahead and have all the performance in the world. This one N1X chip is going to outperform the 96 core Threadripper. It's going to go ahead and just absolutely mop the floor with every laptop in existence. It's so much more powerful, and it's going to have NPUs built right into it, outperforming every other high-end CPU, and none of it's going to be true. Because they went ahead and massaged the numbers so hard, it's not even funny. The only, there's actually here's actually a very fun competition. Which company do you think would win in a who can overhype their own product more? NVIDIA or Tesla? Both have a shocking history lately of drastically over-promising and comically under-delivering. And both of them are just so insanely high valued on the stock market. It's crazy. Because they can't deliver what they dish out. So yeah, we're going to hear about that. I almost guarantee it. I would be stunned if it's not the NVIDIA N1X chip. We have been hearing about it forever. There's been rumors about it forever. And I'd be stunned if it's not it. That's my guess, and I have a hard time believing it's not correct. Meanwhile, though, Qualcomm is revealing their new Snapdragon C chips, which actually should be paving the way for $300 Windows on ARM laptops. So Windows is looking to partner with with Qualcomm, to go ahead and compete with the MacBook Neo. Honestly, I'm surprised it took this long. The MacBook Neo, if you don't know, is a MacBook, of course, through Apple, at $600 that provides, honestly, a very premium feeling laptop because it is full body aluminum, but it's powered by a smartphone chip. The thing is that macOS is now so efficient and also can't do a whole lot. So for what you do on macOS, in most cases, an iPhone chip is plenty. But let me tell you a secret here, okay? I would not trust a $300 laptop right now for a couple of reasons. One, Windows is not as RAM efficient as Apple. Now, if I had my way, both MacBooks and Windows laptops would just start with 16 gigs, and I feel like they should. 8 gigs is pushing the limit, especially on Windows, but it is pushing the limit on macOS as well. Okay. There's that for starters. Second, RAM is absurdly expensive. So that's going to be where the most of the price is going to be cut as much as possible. And 3, I guarantee you the build quality is going to be garbage. Having a plastic computer tower almost doesn't matter. A plastic laptop, on the other hand, you take a laptop with you. A laptop travels. A laptop is going to get bumped around. A laptop is going to go ahead and take, not really like full drops, but it's going to take a few tumbles here and there. Personally, I would not recommend anyone get a laptop that is not like a good build quality. Like if it's made of plastic, it better be some very rigid plastic. I would actually prefer metal. In fact, when I look for laptops, I specifically look for an all metal chassis. But of course, that's just me. You can go ahead and do what you want. I'm not your real dad. But I guarantee you, any $300 laptop is not going to have that. It just isn't. And they're going to have to cut so many other corners that the rest of the materials are going to be bottom tier quality. And it's unfortunate. But yeah, that's why the MacBook Neo at $600 actually is like a very compelling cheap laptop option. Because yeah, macOS is more RAM efficient. Not by much, but it is more RAM efficient. You're going to get better mileage out of those 8 gigabytes on macOS than you are on Windows. Do I believe that 8 gigabytes on Mac equals 16 gigabytes on Windows? No! Only an idiot believes that. But Mac OS is more efficient with RAM. That's a fact. It ain't double the efficiency, but it is more efficient. It's the same reason why SteamOS is better at gaming on low RAM systems, because SteamOS is more RAM efficient. The MacBook Neo is a better build quality. It's an all-metal chassis. It's an all-metal hinge. It's gonna last longer. That's just a fact. So yeah, I mean, yay for cheap alternatives, but personally, I'd avoid it. You would honestly, and I do mean this legitimately, you would honestly be better spending those $300 on a used Dell Latitude, a used ThinkPad, or a used HP EliteBook. Far better build qualities. And yeah, you're not going to get the same battery life, but you know, it's going to be better than whatever you get out of a Snapdragon really cheap plastic laptop. That's just all there is to it. Someone in chat says that I think they said 8 iOS. I think they mean Mac OS equals 12 on Windows, meaning 12 gigabytes of RAM. I don't know if I don't know. It's kind of hard to measure, right? Because Mac OS can't run as many programs as Windows. Windows you can do a lot more with, but Windows is less efficient at it. And it especially doesn't help that Microsoft, or rather Microslop, has been all in on using AI code for the entire operating system, which has not helped anything in the slightest. It's just the unfortunate truth. It just is what it is. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about what's going on in the handheld world of gaming, which of course also means we need to talk about the latest update to the Steam Deck. And I'll warn you right now, it's not pretty. We'll be right back. $4.99 Steam box, man, we wish. Dude, we barely even got a $4.99 Steam Deck. Oh, if only. All right, good. We still have time, which is good. We have quite a bit to go through. Three, two, one. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. There is an update in regards to the world of gaming handhelds. Now, these kind of popped off after the Steam Deck. Well, they even existed before the Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck really did kind of start this whole thing of people making x86 based gaming handhelds and trying to launch them out there for sub $1,000. Intel has now announced a new chip specifically to compete with AMD, because all these handhelds have been powered by AMD chips. Now Intel finally has one out there. The new Intel the Intel Arc G3 for handheld devices. These are supposed to be low-powered 14-core CPUs with a 12-core Arc Z3 GPU built into it. And this is supposed to compete directly with the AMD handheld series. Now, what's the performance going to be like? We won't know until it's in the hands of everyone. And of course, Intel and their typical is, it's going to be, this amount, here's some graphs. You don't really take Intel or AMD's words for granted anymore. You go ahead and do everything in your power to try and get outside sources to confirm what the performance is like. So we're going to have to wait until benchmarks show us what the capability is, as well as what the price is going to be too. That's a big concern, especially after this. I have good news and bad news. The Steam Deck is finally back in stock. It's been out of stock ever since the RAM shortage, and it's been a long time that it's been out of stock. Here's the bad news. It got a price increase of almost $300. I am not kidding. The Steam Deck now starts at $789. There was for a short while some of the old LCD Steam Decks still for $399. They have now completely run out of stock, and of course they're not making any more because that was a holdover from their previous design. These to the 512 gigabyte and the 1 terabyte options are both the OLED variants, and they start at almost $800. Why do they cost $300 more? Well, because the cost of RAM has increased by almost that much. Between the cost of RAM increase, the cost of the SSD increase, yeah, about that much. And unfortunately, Valve does not operate on a loss leader sort of model. Every other console out there Nintendo, the PlayStation, the Nintendo consoles, the Sony consoles, the Microsoft consoles, they all operate on a model of they sell the console at a loss, so it's a low cost of entry, but every game you'll notice is more expensive than their PC counterpart. Valve doesn't do that. Because Valve just makes the hardware as an option out there, but let you go ahead and get the games however you want, they have no way to guarantee that selling a Steam Deck is going to guarantee more sales of Valve games. Or Steam games, to that fact. In fact, Valve barely makes games anymore nowadays. So yeah, their hardware, probably close to at cost, it doesn't surprise me at all if it was near cost, is going to be more expensive than, you know, the other ones, which is also why people saying that it was going to be a $500 Steam machine, the desktop variant of it. I think we're smoking all of it. I assumed the Steam machine was going to start in their ideal world at roughly $799. You look at what just happened to the Steam Deck and how much negotiating power Valve has with hardware, it's clear Valve has no negotiating power with hardware right now. They have almost none at all. I'm not surprised by that at all. So yeah, if the Steam machine even launches in 2026, I would not be surprised at all if Valve just says, I'm sorry, but the way hardware is right now, thanks to AI, they might just say, yeah, it's not launching. We just don't have the capability to do it. The RAM is just too expensive and we don't want to do that to people. This is the cost of AI. This is it right here. A price so massively high, it makes the Nintendo Switch 2 look like a deal. And the worst part is, I'm not wrong. It's infuriating. Now, it's easy to blame Valve. It's absurdly easy to blame Valve. Oh, Valve's a very profitable company. You know, Gabe Newell owns a mega yacht company. In fact, has a massive mega yacht. You know, it's very easy to go look at that and go, my God. They could easily go ahead and get that price lower. Which is exactly what Epic Games team Tim Sweeney did. He literally went to Twitter to go ahead and say that the Steam Deck price hike is to fund Gabe Newell's new mega yacht. Those of us who have been tracking the price of hardware since this massive surge of AI data centers has increased know better. We know it's due to AI. In fact, it is actually due specifically to people like Tim Sweeney who want to go ahead and push out the use of AI in everything, including designing video games, and doesn't want people to know how things are being made or if things used AI at all, because the guy supports AI. So yeah, easy jab, counterpoint, you're part of the problem. Just saying. You could have been part of the solution, but unfortunately, Tim isn't. Instead, he just looks like a jerk. In other news, though, Robinhood has launched a new agentic Oh, that wrong button. AI. That is going to go ahead and use AI to go ahead and trade money on your behalf that will power a credit card with 3% cash back. In case you want to know how cyberpunk dystopians start, I don't know if this is actually how it starts, but man, it definitely feels like it. So, you know, if you want to go ahead and trust the power of AI to automatically try to make you money, go for it. Before you do that, however, I do recommend you try to go ahead and use free credits that you have as a free trial to any AI and have it draw a cat. And then look closely at the cat and tell yourself, is that the kind of quality you want managing your finances? I'll save you the trouble. No, it's not. I'm just telling you that right now. Meanwhile, though, here's something that is staggering, okay? This actually got me legitimately angry when this crossed my news feed. Millionaire Kevin O'Leary, actually I think is actually a billionaire, but who's counting, right? Has a lot of investments in AI. And he is now trying to claim that Chinese propaganda is to blame for anti-data center backlash, that hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent to kill US's dominance in AI in order to try and circumvent and catch up to the US. I mean, look, I'll tell you what. Because thanks to AI, I wouldn't mind if I was being paid to hate on AI. Unfortunately for me and my wallet, no. I have not been paid to hate on AI. I have looked at the facts and came to the conclusion on my own. I have looked at the facts that countless of these AI data centers are popping up everywhere. They consume a large amount of water. Regulation is trying to be lessened on the data center so that they don't have to go ahead and maintain the water they're using properly, you know, like a normal closed loop system would, are sucking up tons of resources and energy to power what they're doing, increasing the prices of the power for citizens around these data centers, and causing who knows what else. Here's the blatant truth. You're building data centers so fast, the production of the core components can't keep up. The world's supply of memory and storage cannot keep up with the sheer demand of building these data centers. It's absurd that now the majority of silicon being made is just for AI data centers. That is insane. Power demands for these data centers are so astronomically high that at some point, half of all power is going to be going to these data centers rather than to everything else that we do, not only our lives, but also manufacturing for non-AI things. When do we look at this and say, look, you want to go ahead and advance AI. I get that. But at some point, you have to look at what you're doing and say, this is inefficient. It is insane that we are looking at turning more and more and more farmland into AI data centers and lessening regulations that these AI data centers treat the land they're on properly. It's absurd. And for what? For Grok to fail to draw a cat? For OpenAI to go ahead and fail to draw a flyer? For hallucination after hallucination, for failure after failure, because current AI is nowhere near perfect, but we want to pretend that everything AI touches is gold? For Microsoft to continue to push out terrible after terrible after terrible update to their own operating system? Being plain awful. We got disconnected from streaming right now. I don't know if we're live or not, but I'm just going to keep on going anyway. And those who are watching live and missed that are just going to have to go ahead and watch the podcast version, because we are still recording, but we apparently did lose connection for a bit there. That is unfortunate. I think we're actually back right now. So that was a little weird. But in any case, efficiency needs to be the focus of AI data centers moving forward. Because at some point, we cannot have half of the US be nothing but data centers. That's just not a reality. And while we're at it, claims like this, having offshore wind-powered underwater data centers being fully operated, that's what China says they have made, are also not feasible. And by the way, this article is saying that China has the world's first offshore wind-powered. I want you to first think about that. An offshore wind-powered data center in the ocean. Supposedly being a 24 megawatt data center housing 2,000 servers. I did the math. That means each one of these servers is consuming 12,000 watts. That is comically inefficient, or you made that up. It's one of the two. Not to mention, if you are in fact using the ocean to cool, which would be smart on paper, you are leaching who knows how many metals into the ocean, warming said ocean with 24 megawatts worth of heat into the ocean, causing who knows what. And by the way, since we're going on heating the ocean sort of thing, I also want to point out, we are entering what is known as an El Nino year, weather-wise, meaning that the section of the Pacific Ocean is warmer than normal. There's already 2 areas being monitored for tropical activity, one of which, between Mexico and Hawaii, has a 90% chance of producing a tropical storm within the next 7 days. The other one, honestly, a little bit lower. It's only 20% chance within the next 7 days of producing a tropical system. But it's currently the end of May. And we're talking about the tropics. And we want to go ahead and pump 24 megawatts worth of heat into the ocean off China. You know what? Yeah, that sounds like something they'd go ahead and do. Granted, I also do firmly believe that China went ahead and made that up. I don't believe they've done it. Because again, that's either the most inefficient data center ever, or they just pulled numbers straight out of their butt. For perspective, by the way, a quad GPU dual socket server that most AI data centers use for one server is about 5,000 watts. That's about the average. So 12,000 from that China's putting out. You either have some very, very, very big servers or very, very, very inefficient servers or very fictional servers. I believe the latter one the most. That being said, though, China may have the answer to our RAM problems. Corsair's Vengeance memory has been found to be using Chinese-made DRAM instead of what they usually use, which is SK Hynix. People who have bought recent Vengeance memory kits, which I can, by the way, state that I know my RAM isn't. I managed to buy my RAM before the RAM crisis. It was by sheer luck. I'm just telling you that right now. I bought the RAM for the main rig just, when I did. Then I heard rumors that RAM might be going up, and I'm just like, I should probably get some RAM. And then it turned out, holy smokes. Was that a good buy? So yeah, Corsair might be using Chinese RAM. Neat. Means they can keep it stock and keep the price down. Hey, that's all good for us. But while all that's going on with AI, because this whole thing started with the whole gaslighting that all the anti-AI propaganda is allegedly Chinese propaganda, which honestly, I would argue it's not propaganda at all. It's just stating reality. You can hate AI, whether it be because of concerns for water quality as restrictions keep getting lifted. You could hate AI for the massive amount of power sucking it's doing and causing your energy bills to go higher. You can hate AI for the fact that it's taking up valuable land that could have been used for farms or was used for farms. Or you could hate AI for the fact that it seems to produce nothing of value, but continues to just be shoved into everything against your will. Or you can hate AI for the fact that it's trying to go ahead and replace all of art, despite the fact that it had to be trained on all of art. And therefore, once it goes ahead and replaces all of art, it has no way to go ahead and get any new training data other than itself, which then leads to a giant loop of absolutely destroying itself and making itself worse and worse and worse over time. I choose all of the above, by the way. But needless to say, the pushback against AI is real. Because we saw DuckDuckGo's switch go up as high as 30% as people look at Google and go, you know what? I think I'm good. I don't need AI shoved into my face with every single update, as Google went ahead and said that, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and use AI for all search. Which, of course, would cause a loop of choking off all sources of news, because all sources of news can't go ahead and get ad revenue to pay their journalists that go ahead and do the news reporting in the first place, which then would create a feedback loop that destroys all of news. Isn't that great? Such quality. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and push back against Google shoving AI in your face, DuckDuckGo, set it to your default search engine. They went as high, they saw their users increase by 30%. Someone in chat says almost like an Ouroboros effect. It's not like an Ouroboros effect. It is an Ouroboros effect. By the by, they've now put AI cameras in tens of thousands of school buses so that they can give officers access to this. I can't wait for this to backfire. We'll see how well this goes, but the unfortunate thing is I've now learned just to distrust anything run by AI, because most things that run by AI end up choking when you need them the most. And then all I can do is just shake my head. Just shake my head some more. It is inevitable. And you want to know how big the AI topic is? It's not just something that super nerds and artists talk about. Oh, no. It is now something that the Pope has now talked about. How he calls for AI to serve humanity and not be used to concentrate power. Which, I mean, honestly, I can't argue with that all that much. I mean, honest statement, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, AI should in fact be a tool for the betterment of the people. And unfortunately, what we're seeing right now is it being used to push out most people, to go ahead and be used almost exclusively to basically gather all the power for, you know, a handful of the big corps or people in power. Again, why we also absolutely hate where everything AI is going. So, I mean, yeah, this is one thing that I can say, yeah, I agree with the Pope on this. On the flip side, though, the Pope is also from Chicago and therefore likes the Bears. So you can see where I'm kind of conflicted in trying to agree with the Pope on this. It's kind of weird in that regard. Speaking of the Bears, Illinois has actually passed a historic AI bill that would actually require safety audits of all data centers constructed within the state. Holy smokes. It might be one of the first times Illinois has passed a law that doesn't suck. Holy smokes. It might be a first for the state. They're actually trying to do something good. Also, chat's reminding me that the Bears are moving. And yep, that is actually true. The Bears are moving. I have no idea where they're moving to be perfectly honest. If I had to guess, probably Indiana. Which, I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna be pretty funny. Now, right now, the governor still needs to sign said bill. I don't believe the governor is like very pro AI. We'll have to see how that ends up going, but you know, Be nice to see that. It'd be nice to see, you know, some pushback against AI. Yay. In other news, TSMC is scrambling because they went ahead and said they were going to cut 30% of employee bonuses. And then there was supposed to be a Samsung style strike. And all of a sudden, all that kind of vanished. So I can't even begin to tell you. How close, just how close we came to completely having a catastrophic meltdown with a chip shortage. Because here's the thing, TSMC still runs at 100% capacity for making silicon chips. If their plants shut down due to a strike, we get yet another chip shortage during a point where already demand has outpaced supply in a major way for computer components. Yikes. We came super close to a major problem. Someone in chat said 100% for all nodes. Technically no, but it is 100% capacity for all nodes that create modern silicon. There are nodes that make higher lithography. You know, older tech are not being used at 100% in any way, shape, or form. But you know, they also just don't make a lot of those anymore. They usually go for, you know, smaller lithography, more newer, more cutting edge chips. But yeah, they operate at near max capacity. All right. I think it's enough talk about AI. Are we done? Are we done talking about AI? We done with that? Does anyone else want to talk about AI? Anyone else sick of AI? I'm sick of AI. Let's talk about how Bungie is killing off Destiny. Destiny 2 has announced that they are putting out one final update before ending support for the game completely. So that's it. After one more update, one more bit of content, after that, that's it. The end. There will then be no more Destiny 2. I'm honestly not surprised. I'm surprised it didn't take longer. There are some people that have been talking about this being unfair because Bungie is being forced to move more resources over to Marathon, their new IP that Sony had them make, even though Marathon's not doing that well. But the thing is that Destiny 2, let's be honest, Destiny 2 has been on life support for a long time. It has its fans, it has its users, but it has not been a successful, it hasn't been like, you know, a super popular platform. It's not been a super popular game for a while. It's had users, it's had a user base, but it's been back and forth on whether it's going to live or not for a long time. Now, to move more resources to Marathon, here's my new suggestion for you, Bungie. All right. Here's what I would recommend. I heard a weird noise for a second there. In any case, here's my recommendation for Bungie, okay? You go ahead and put on another marathon update, okay? Try to go ahead and drum up any kind of interest for marathon, all right? You know, go ahead, finish up whatever you're working on it. Just work on a Destiny 3. Yeah, Destiny 2 has been out there for a while. We get that. But it might be time to look at, you know, looking at models that have worked for you and get into that. That's what I'd recommend. Investing in a marathon, though, not a great plan, in my opinion. In other gaming news, though, on actually pretty close to the same side of the pond, since, you know, Bungie's now owned by Sony. Dragon Quest had their 40th anniversary showcase and finally wanted to go ahead and answer the question that a lot of Dragon Quest fans have had for a couple of years now. Where's 12? Where's your new game? And Dragon Quest has announced that they are going ahead and scrapped what they had before. So the previous Dragon Quest 12 is now dead and is replaced with a new Dragon Quest 12 with, I'm not gonna lie, a very interesting choice in cast. Like, if I was to describe the characters for Dragon Quest 12, I would describe them as the evil team your hero team is supposed to fight against. The hero has a Goku-esque mohawk, while also looking like he just woke up after a 10-year nap and definitely needs more coffee. Or had too much coffee. One of the two. A robot, a lizard man, and what I can only describe as evil Bulma from Dragon Ball. It's an interesting choice, to say the least. Not to mention their attire is very fashionably challenged, I'd say, is the most polite way to state it. But, I mean, it is news that Dragon Quest 12 is on the way. My father always told me to never judge a book by its cover, so I will keep an open mind, especially since, you know, as a long-time Dragon Quest fan, I mean, heck, I've played the game since I was in the first grade. I've been around Dragon Quest for a very, very, very long time, pretty much my entire life. So I'm willing to keep an open mind. But probably the bigger news, and actually probably the more interesting news, before we even get Dragon Quest 12, they did announce a new Dragon Quest monster game, which is a Pokemon-esque kind of game, but done with Dragon Quest monsters instead of obviously Pokemon. And honestly, seeing that actually gives me more. I'm actually more excited for the Dragon Quest Monsters game than I am for the Dragon Quest 12 game. So, yeah. Huzzah, huzzah. They got that coming apparently by the end of the year. When is Dragon Quest 12 coming out, though? They didn't give us a date at all. So that was a choice. Meanwhile, though, TwitchCon EU happened over in Rotterdam. Twitch has announced all kinds of new things, such as new guilds for Asian disabilities and indigenous, which are basically just Discord servers that nobody pays attention to and is just their way of saying, we believe in you. Honestly, these things have always been pretty bad. These new guilds that Twitch has always had is just kind of a way of saying, we care about minorities, and it basically doesn't matter at all. I don't want to be that guy, but it kind of is. I've never felt that Twitch guilds ever did any good for anyone. It always felt like a way of them just saying we care, but actually not caring. Especially since they keep open racist on their platform. Come on, Twitch, we ain't gonna ban Hassan. Meanwhile, though, they did announce a new feature in the fact that moderators can now announce their mod anniversary on the day of their mod anniversary. I have a question. Not to sound rude, but who asked for this? Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's neat, and I think that, mods, kind of want to know. It's kind of a neat thing to track, but I don't think anyone asked for this. This is basically the equivalent of coming home and then getting to your computer and finding a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You didn't ask for it. You didn't exactly want for it. You didn't exactly want or ask for it, but it's there and you're going to eat it. That's basically what this is. This is a spontaneous PBJ sandwich on your desk. I think that might be the best description of this that I've come up with on the fly. In other news, though, that affects not people on the Western side of the world, for European streamers, payments are now going to be done through SEPA, which to those of us, like myself, over in North America, it means absolutely nothing to. But if you're in Europe, it does mean that your payments are no longer going to be subjected to conversion fees, meaning your payouts are going to be worth more for free. Which, hey, good for you guys. A+. I mean, no one's going to complain about that. Unlike the person in chat who just complained about the PB&J sandwich that they had without milk. They apparently will complain about it. New features also being added. They're calling it the Mythic Hype Train. Mythic Hype Trains are hype trains that can happen in streams that instead of just earning emotes for supporting a streamer back to back to back in a short period of time and earning emotes, it will instead unlock the ability for people in that chat to use certain gold emotes, including now the PogChamp emote, Cool Cat emote, and What Face emote. Before it used to, these basically did occur before, but before it was only golden Kappa emotes. Now it has been expanded and now has an official name. So, okay, neat. In addition, Twitch also looked at YouTube and said, you know, that AI summary thing sounds like a good idea. So we're going to go ahead and add that ourselves. Twitch is going to go ahead and have the ability to, when you join a chat, to have an AI generated summary of what has been going on in chat and summarizing what has been happening. Which, if it's anything like the YouTube AI chat summaries, is going to result in nothing but hilarious misunderstandings. So, Twitch chat, go nuts. Gaslighting an AI to try and get the AI summary to say something comically incorrect. You didn't need me to tell you to do that. You were going to do that on your own. Don't lie. You know you were going to. You know dang well you were going to. Now, no word if you can go ahead and disable this feature on your own stream. I'm willing to bet against it. I can't turn it off on the YouTube side either, but my chat on YouTube is also so inactive that YouTube chat summary rarely has anything to go off of to actually summarize. So, you know, that's not a real big surprise. Easily, though, the biggest update and probably the most questionable is that higher tier subscribers will be able to start sending GIFs in chat. This will be sponsored by Gifify. And by sponsored, I mean powered by. I just used the wrong word. So that people who are higher tier subscribers can put in massive GIFs into the chat. Which now raises the greatest question that most developers have to ask. How long until penis? Because I can already tell you this right now. These sort of GIF services, like the one built into Discord, can find graphic images. They can find very easily some not safe for work GIFs. It's not hard. So is Twitch's implementation going to go ahead and filter that out? Or how long until I see the most degenerate thing in my Twitch chat after this? I don't know when this is going to be implemented, but by God, it's going to be hilarious when this thing is fully implemented and people go ahead and push out the most degenerate stuff. This is the easiest thing to predict. This is going to backfire. This is going to comically backfire. There's no question about it. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the last burb, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, Ferrari launched an EV. The company known for the most powerful gas cars out there, or some of the most powerful gas cars out there, launched an electric vehicle. And it sells for $640,000 and looks unrecognizable as a Ferrari. Now, how is this the last burb? How is this the weirdest story of the week? First off is the fact that Ferrari went ahead and launched an EV. Second is the fact that Ferrari, despite knowing that their image is everything, launched an EV that looks nothing like a Ferrari. If I just showed you a picture of this car, you would think it's a BMW, or that it belongs to Chevy or something like that. It does not look anything like any kind of sports car. So how do you think the investors responded? How do you think the investors responded to this? The stock dropped 5%. This might be the only electric vehicle in the history of everything that on launch and on announcement actually tanked the stock price of a major company like this. And to me, it's just comedy at its finest. Because you would have thought if a company that is known for gasoline powerhouse cars, they would have at least tried to do everything in their power to make their electric vehicle look like something that isn't the estranged love child of a Prius and a Hot Wheel. But by God, they somehow did it. And I wish this whole thing could just be blamed on AI. Mostly because that would just make this 100% the funniest thing on earth. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm sorry if you hoped for something even stranger as your last burb story, but that really was the weirdest story I could find for the week. It just is what it is. Next week, however, is Computex. We're going to have so much bizarre stuff out there. It's going to be interesting. Make sure you go ahead and follow my other work, twitch.tv/EagleFalcon and youtube.com/EagleFalcon. Take care, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye. I just don't know why on earth would you not at least just take a Ferrari and just, you know, take that same shell and just build an EV out of it. Your freaking Ferrari. Your car design is iconic. Why on earth would you just go ahead with this cruddy look? And you know what? I think someone in the chat is completely on the nose. They said it looks like a Chinese EV vehicle. I would not be surprised at all if it turned out that Ferrari went ahead and hired an outside group to design this thing. And it turned out they just went ahead and imported or copied a random Chinese EV and then bring it over to Ferrari. That would not surprise me in the least, which honestly would just add to how dumb this whole thing is. That's it. Podcast is in the books. We're going to go ahead and take an extended break here. I got to go ahead and get dinner, get set up, get up and stretch. We will be back.